Hi guys, it's Queen B and welcome back to my channel. So in this video, we're just going to talk about friends. I was inspired to do this video last night because I feel like, well, I know that I have no friends, and that is such, I think, a weird topic, and I also think a lot of people can relate to it at the same time. So I don't have any notes planned out for this video, so I'm really just going to be talking from like the top of my head, so things may seem a little bit random, and so I apologize for that. I just want it to be kind of more of like a natural conversation. I'm also going to be drinking coffee. When I was doing my last video, I had my coffee with me and I kind of forgot to drink it, so I'm going to make sure that I drink it throughout this video recording that I'm doing, and I may end up editing it out so that you guys don't hear me slurping on my coffee. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so I definitely feel like as an adult it's super hard to make friends. I'm gonna jump back to what my experience was like in school, like elementary school, middle school, all of that stuff, and making friends. So because of my background, which I'm not gonna get too much into, because of my background, I always had people who wanted to be my friend, so I never really had to learn to make friends. I definitely was able to pick up on when people wanted to be my friend, and then when other people didn't want to. Like, it was either just like the way they looked at me, or the way that they didn't like really put in effort to kind of like get to know me or try to like be around me. And so I definitely paid like more attention to the people who I felt like didn't like me, because I wanted to like understand why don't you like me? Like everyone else likes me, why don't you like me, right? And so I think I kind of like learned not to be manipulative, but to kind of like try to do things to get those people to be my friend, if that makes sense. So for example, if there are two Britneys in the class, I'm one of them, and Katie only wants to play with the other Britney, then I'm gonna be like, hey, you know, I noticed that you play with the other Britney, why don't you play with me? Like, you know, can you like split your time between the two of us? Or, you know, if I take you to this game, will you like hang out with me more, or something like that? So I developed like those types of habits of trying to get people who I thought should be my friend, or people that I wanted to be my friend, to actually be my friend. And I remember in middle school there was this girl who, she was black, she lived kind of like in the same area as me but not in the same neighborhood, and she just had like a lot of friends. She was dating the guy that I liked or whatever, and she was really cool, so I wanted to be her friend. So I remember walking up to her and I was like, hey, you know, can we be friends or whatever? And she's like, yeah, you know, we could be friends. And I, looking back, she probably just said yeah, because I kind of like obviously put her on the spot, you know what I mean? And so I think we may have like, at that time, instant message, like AOL, was really like popular, so we may have talked a few times on that or passed a few notes, but that didn't really go anywhere. And I ended up being good friends with someone she was best friends with for a little while. When we would pass notes, we would talk about everything. That girl was grown. She went through like a lot of stuff that I hadn't even gone through yet, and wasn't even I was sort of thinking about it, but like not like doing it like the level she was or whatever. But she was really cool. She was from New York, and so if you've been around somebody from New York who's actually like grown up here, they're obviously a lot more mature for their age. They're doing stuff because, you know, they're on their own, their parents are working, they have to take care of themselves, you know what I mean? They have to learn at an early age how to get their needs met and how to like interact with people in order to kind of like survive day to day, you know what I mean? So she was really cool. Her and I, we didn't keep in touch after middle school. And then in high school, I actually transferred to a new high school, so I had to make friends all over again. And I remember there was this girl who was really popular, and I did not think of myself as popular. Like, people knew who I was because of my family background, but I did not make friends very easily, like on my own. And so I remember I started high school, and there was this girl who was popular, and my sister had a class with her, and my sister was talking to the girl, and I was like, wow, she talked to you? Like, that was how like low my self-esteem was, that I didn't think certain people would talk to me, you know what I mean? Like, I think because of how I felt about myself, and because of how I didn't know how to make friends, and then the people who didn't want to be my friends, I kind of like internalized that and tried to do everything that I could to make them like me, like people pleasing. And so that girl talked to my sister, and I was just like really surprised about it. Like, my sister is obviously really cool. She is more social than I am. People love talking to her like more than me, which is totally fine. As a kid, I didn't like that, because if people wanted to talk to one of us, they would talk to her, because obviously she talked more. I was very self-conscious, and I didn't like talking to people a whole lot, especially when there was an audience, because of my speech, because of my hearing, because of all of that stuff. Just years and years of like having difficult interactions with people, of having my feelings hurt and all of that, it made me kind of like retreat within myself and not feel comfortable talking to people. So anyone who knows me, like really knows me, will say that I only open up to like a select few people. Everyone else, they know who I am, but they don't really know me. Though if you ask them, hey, do you know Brittany, or do you know anything about her, they'll be like, yeah, she's really nice, but I don't know her that well. Or yeah, she's quiet, I haven't really gotten a chance to talk to her, or something like that. Or they may even say that I'm weird because I don't talk. Most of the time, that's what people will say, like, you know, she doesn't talk. I remember one time I was playing on this traveling AAU team, and there was a girl there. She's a point guard. I didn't know her before playing on that team. And I remember we went out to lunch after like a practice or something like that, and we were all sitting at the table, and I was sitting next to my best friend who was older. And obviously what I just said about how I only open up to a select number of people, a select group of people. And so her and I were talking, but I wasn't really interacting with everyone in the group. And obviously in a group setting, it's hard to hear people anyway, so I really tune people out, because it's so much effort trying to keep up with what everyone's saying, asking people to repeat it and all of that stuff. So it's really, it can get stressful. And so my default is just to like tune people out, or just interact with the one or two people that I can hear well. So at this lunch, I'm talking to my best friend. The girl is sitting across from me. I guess she's watching me talk to my best friend. And then so she just, for some reason, I end up looking at her, and she's just like, you never talk, or you don't talk. And she says it in a way that's kind of like a put down, and it's kind of rude. And so I'm like, my initial reaction is I feel like she's shaming me, and I don't like that she's putting me on the spot. And so I just kind of like laugh it off. And the thing about me laughing it off is like I'm kind of like dismissing it, but obviously everyone else around me can pick up on what's happening. And so I think that I'm like dismissing it and laughing it off, but the awkwardness is still there. And so I really don't think I say anything to that girl after she says that, but I definitely do not like her in that moment, because why do you care if I don't talk or not? Like, if you want to have a conversation with me, then initiate a conversation with me. Ask me questions about myself. I'll ask you questions in return. But you don't put someone on the spot or try to like make them feel bad because they're not doing what you expect them to do. And so I've definitely had people who have either gone out of their way to make me feel bad because I don't talk a lot, and then I've had people who like have genuinely tried to be my friend. So I really appreciate those people. I really appreciate those people who have taken the time, like throughout my entire lifetime, to be my friend, putting in effort putting in an effort of getting to know me, because there's not a lot of people who will do that, especially at the age that I am. I'm 32. You know, I'm no longer in school. I'm not with people who are literally in the same age group as me. Like, you have your class, you're generally the same age, or closer in age than people in other classes and stuff like that. And then within the school, you guys are, 4 or 5 years apart at most. So in the workforce, it's not like that. You're mixed in with people of all ages, from all backgrounds, from all over the country, depending on where you live, because people move and relocate and change jobs and all of that. So you're really just thrown in with a random group of people who happen to work at the same company in the same department as you know what I mean? So it's definitely very hard for me to make friends. I don't open up to a lot of people. And I want to say that when I was working in a office, I actually did not like that environment too much, because it felt very high school. So like at my first office job, it was pretty small. There's only like maybe 20 to 30 people, if that, working in the office. And for the most part, we only had like a lunch table of like 10 seats or something like that. So only like 10 people could sit there. the rest of us would just like sit at our desk and have like a working lunch. So that's where we just ate, and I was comfortable doing that. I was comfortable doing that because I didn't have to interact with people outside of the people who sat next to me, you know what I mean? And I smack when I eat, so eating in general at the office has always been awkward because I worry about whether or not people can hear me, and they can obviously hear me, I just don't know what they can. And so I've had people, I'm sitting there eating my lunch and they'll just like put their headphones on. I'm like, oh my god, am I really that loud? But I literally cannot hear when I'm smacking, and I know that sound, I guess, grosses people out, but I literally cannot hear it. And so I'm really self-conscious about eating in front of people because of that reason. And so anyway, so I would eat lunch at my desk, and then I wouldn't really interact with people other than to say, hey, how are you, when I see them and whatever. And so the second office job that I got, it was about the same number of people. It eventually grew to become like more people in the office, but at this particular office, they had a lot more lunch tables, so basically everyone could sit there and have lunch away from their desk. And I really hated that because it was always a thing of like, oh, well, you know, who am I going to sit with? It was very high school. And in high school, or actually, let me backtrack. In middle school, we there's obviously a bunch of lunch tables, and I remember one year, maybe 7th grade, there was like a sign-up sheet, and you could basically sign up wherever you wanted to sit, and then wherever you signed up for, that was where you had to sit all year. And so I remember I kind of signed up at a table that just had leftover spots, so it wasn't like I really wanted to sit with those people. I think like I was cool enough with them to want to sit with them, but it wasn't like, oh, I have to sit with these people, you know what I mean? And so I was friends with a girl who, she wasn't popular or anything like that, and I wasn't popular either, but I wanted to make more friends who were popular. And I guess that was kind of like foolish of me because I should have appreciated that relationship that I had with that one girl better, and I definitely could have been a better friend to her. And so anyway, that table that we're sitting at, I just chose to sit there because I basically didn't have anywhere else to sit. And so I hated those feelings of not having anywhere to sit, not knowing where I'm sitting, and then like not really having conversation because I can't hear people. And so I hate it when I had that second office job. I hated having to sit there and eat my lunch, one, because it was smacking, and then two, not knowing who I'm gonna sit with, and then three, not being able to hear all of the conversations. And so eventually I just stopped eating the lunch. Eventually I just stopped eating my lunch at that table. I would actually go out every day for a salad, and I would eat at my desk, and I could like smack at my desk in private and not have to worry about having any conversations with people, and I really liked that. And so now I'm obviously working remote, so I do a working lunch at my desk. I sit with my sister, she's right next to me working at her company remotely and all of that. And so this is just like the best office environment I've ever had because, you know, I can interact with my sister throughout the day. I can eat my lunch in peace, not worry about smacking. I mean, my sister, she's used to me smacking, so, and it's my sister, so whatever. My dogs are there, and so I'm just really comfortable in this office environment. So now what that means in terms of making friends, you know, I'm not a person who's probably gonna go up to people and say, hey, how are you, let's have a conversation or whatever. And so I wasn't like that in the office, so I didn't really have many friends except for the people who generally came up to me first and wanted to get to know me and all of that. And so I would say probably at work I probably have 3 or 4 people that I can go to and kind of like have like conversations with, but I wouldn't say that we're like friends in the sense of like this is someone who knows me really well. This is just people that I'm comfortable with at work that I can just have like a work related or even a random conversation about hair or whatever at work. And so with me working remotely, with me being in my house all day, and me not being on dating apps, I really don't have a lot of opportunities to make friends. And a lot of it comes back to like the insecurity that I have within myself and just my childhood and what it was like making friends back then. My hearing loss, not being able to hear everything. So obviously for the rest of my life, people are whenever I go places with my sister, people are gonna pick up on the fact that she talks more, that I don't, that when I talk I sound different and all of that. So like even now when we go to the supermarket, there are people who will when they see the both of us, they'll be like, hey, how are you? And they'll like, you know, initiate a conversation, and then at that point kind of just let my sister take over, especially with people wearing masks now, because it is very hard for me to understand what people are saying. It's really uncomfortable to be surrounded by people wearing masks and really not know what people are saying. Like that's really super uncomfortable. So I at the beginning of the pandemic, I wasn't really leaving my house a whole lot by myself because I just didn't want that stress of like not knowing what people were saying, because that was already stressful for me without people wearing masks, and now you have people wearing masks and I can't really read lips and all of that. So so yeah, so when I'm out with my sister, people she interacts with people more. I have such anxiety that I will literally, if I leave my house and I know that I go a certain way and I'm gonna see someone, I'm gonna kind of like get anxious about it and like kind of like find a different way to get to where I need to go so I don't have to interact with people. And that really just comes from like anxiety with my speech and all of that. I don't know if I think I talked about this in another video, where basically I get panic attacks, and it's from like when I was younger, I would have to read out loud or present in class and I would get panic attacks. And I really wish that I had a teacher back then who understood what was happening and either talked to me about it or talked to my parents about it, because I should have gotten therapy a lot earlier than I did. I just now got therapy at maybe like 30 or 31 years of age, when I should have had therapy maybe back when I was like 5 or something like that, you know what I mean? And so I really wish that someone had been more observant of that and was able to say, hey, you know, Brittany, I'm noticing that when you talk and when you present, you sound like this, or you seem to be really anxious and all of that. We really should explore what's going on here and all of that, because then that would have been able to allow me to develop my confidence in myself when I was speaking, because not getting that help has transitioned into or spilled over into the social environment, to where I get anxious just talking to people socially. And on top of all the other things I've already mentioned, I'm less inclined to want to like interact with people. So far my point is that I have 0 friends. So my phone is super dry. I only get texts from family members. I literally do not have anyone who I am friends with, who I check up on a day-to-day, a week-to-week basis. I have people who come in and out of my life from my past, from when I was in high school and when I was in college and grad school and all of that. So I don't really have people who are consistently in my life, people who care enough to check up on me day to day, and that's totally fine. I think that not having friends has eliminated a lot of stress from my life, because everyone has stuff that's going on in their lives, you know what I mean? They all have problems that they need to talk about, that they want to talk about, that they want to go to their friends about. And for me, I don't have those people around me, so in a way it has made my life less stressful, because I only have to worry about my problems, my sister's problems, and my family's problems. I don't have outside influences bringing their drama into my life, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I only mean it in a negative way because of the people who I was friends with, particularly men that I was friends with from dating apps. They would just bring a whole bunch of drama into my life and make my life more complicated. And so this is the most peaceful that I've ever been in terms of having friends and what they brought into my life. Like there's literally no drama in my life right now except for the drama that I create, and that's like another story, so we don't really even get into that. But anyway, so yeah, so I have no friends, and I'm totally fine with that, because day to day I kind of like know what to expect. I know that I'm gonna get texts from my family. I know that for the most part there's not gonna be a whole lot of drama in my life. If it is, it's gonna be very minimal. It's gonna be stuff that's easily fixable. It's gonna be stuff that can be fixed with a conversation, a simple conversation. It's not going to be anything life-altering, anything that's going to completely shatter my world or anything like that. So one thing I didn't talk about is in particular, I don't really have a whole lot of girlfriends. I've always been friends with guys that I've dated, and so that is kind of not good, because once that romantic relationship ends, obviously those guys aren't going to be my friends anymore, you know what I mean? I actually was friends with a guy who lives nearby, and once I made it clear that I wasn't like romantically interested in him, he kind of like stopped talking to me, and that was kind of like a blow for me because I want to go to that person, like open up and vent, and I'm more naturally likely to do that with guys that I'm getting close with, just because of like the dating environment or that setup, you know what I mean? And so he had no interest in being my friend and talking to me about that stuff, and I quickly realized, okay, this is not a relationship that's gonna be a friendship or someone that you can go to, so you have to cut that off. And so that actually kind of hurt my feelings because it reinforced that guys don't want to be my friends if they can't get something from me, you know what I mean? And so that has cut off at least the guys that I interact, so not at least the guys that I interact with, so not all of the guys. And so that has kind of like cut off a world of friendship for me, because until I can get better at healing myself and then identifying people to be friends with in terms of men, that is the only way that those relationships with men will get better. Because I would love to have really platonic male friends who I can go to without really any romantic expectations or implications of that friendship, just genuine friendship. So in terms of women, I don't have a lot of girlfriends because most of the girlfriends that I had, they came from basketball, so I was always on a basketball team, so I always had a group of girls around me. I wasn't close with every single teammate that I had, but generally it was still like a circle of friendship, if that makes sense. And so when I came to New York and I was working in retail, obviously I'm working with a bunch of other girls, a bunch of other women, and so I remember one time, 2 years ago, I went back to the cupcake place and I was working at a location. It was a really super small location, so we were all in tight quarters. There's about 7 of us, I think, and I actually really hated that environment. Like, the girls were generally nice, but they were, one, a lot younger than me, and two, they really talked about stuff that I had like zero interest in, so that made it a little more difficult. And they were also talking about stuff that I've never really experienced. Like, one girl was talking about how she had to go to like, not like the welfare office, but something like that, and then she was talking about how she had to like manipulate the guy into like giving her benefits or something like that. And that's not something that I would ever, obviously I know that happens from like movies and stuff like that, but that's not something that I've ever been put in a situation of. And so that was just really uncomfortable for me to hear them openly talking about stuff like that, because in a way that's kind of like you obviously were in a situation in your past where you felt like you had to do that stuff to get what you need, to where you're openly initiating that stuff to get what you need, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of like stuff that I don't like, because I don't want anyone to be damaged by their past, or anyone to be put in a situation where they have to do things that they don't want to. I want everyone to be able to live their lives as authentically as they can, to get their needs met in a healthy way, to get their whatever it is that they need or want in a healthy way without having to compromise who they are to get those things, you know what I mean? So it was definitely very difficult working with those girls, one off of the fact that they like gossiped so much and they all like talked about each other, and I'm sure they talked about me too when I wasn't there. And so that was just really annoying for me, and it just reminded me why I don't like being friends with a group of girls, just because of how toxic that environment can be. And that's not to say all girl groups are like that. If you find girls who are like more low-key, no drama, they want a simple life, they're not into all of that craziness, then that group dynamic is going to be a little bit different than girls who are about that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Now I'm gonna be moving soon. I'm gonna be moving to a completely new environment. I'm really not gonna have any friends. I'm gonna have to like be more nice to people than I normally am, and that's not to say that I'm not nice. It's just I'm gonna have to like kind of like go out of my way more to like say hi, how are you, and get to know people, be upfront and honest about my healing loss so that they're comfortable interacting with me and I'm comfortable interacting with them. I also have to do a better job of, when I move, of not like of not like keeping to myself, because I want people to like know who I am a little bit better and to want to get to know me, and not have people who, if I walk into a room, people are kind of like just looking at me and trying to figure me out and not really like wanting to come and engage with me. I don't want to have those situations. I mean, if it happens, I can't really do anything about it but be more open and make people want to get to know me better. The other thing that I have to work on when I move is that I need to work on my social anxiety, because I've especially noticed it more with me working remotely, because I have panic attacks all the time. I hate talking in my work meetings, so I say very little if I have to talk. And I've started to take rhodiola rosea, which is kind of like a herb to help me with my anxiety. I was taking, so I've tried with 3 different brands at this point. The first brand was like super expensive. It was like a 30-day bottle, and it was like $20, so that's super expensive. The second bottle was like maybe like $14 to $20, but it was a 120-day supply. However, that one gave me like blind spots in my vision, because it was just keeping me really alert mentally, to the point where I couldn't sleep when I was like a zombie. So once I realized that it was like that particular brand, or that kind of like combination of how they did their formula was giving me the blind spots, I knew that I had to switch to something else. And at first I thought I needed to try ashwagandha, because this rhodiola rosea was kind of like getting me really like alert, whereas ashwagandha is supposed to calm you down. And so I did try ashwagandha. I took that pill, and then I went into a meeting where I was like freaking out, and I was like, okay, this pill's not working for me, it's not doing anything. So I realized that that first bottle of rhodiola rosea that I tried, it didn't give me any blind spots. So I went back to that specific standardized formula that they used, and just got a different brand that was around the same price point and the same 120-day supply. And that has been working out well for me. I have gotten panic attacks, but I've been able to talk myself through them. In the past, that has not been the case. Like once my heart starts beating really fast, I lose all control over my body, and I can't really come back from it. And so if I do continue through with my speech, I'm gonna be kind of like obviously in a panic state and all of that. And so I really just want to make sure that I take care of myself now over the next couple of months until I move, so that I can get into a place where I am comfortable talking with people. I know how to better navigate those panic attacks, and I'm also in a place within myself where I am willing and open enough to want to develop friendships with people and have more friends. I don't necessarily need to have more friends, but it would be nice to not be so isolated all the time. So I am excited about the opportunity of moving somewhere new, of kind of like starting over. And if I don't develop friendships from this whole move or this new situation, that's totally fine. But I do want to be at least open to it when those opportunities do come. I don't want to be closed off and shut off from people and all of that. And so I hope this video was helpful for you guys. You know, if you are in the situation that I am in, where you don't have any friends, totally use that to your advantage. Use that time to work on yourself, to develop your skill set, to learn something new. If it's like a new skill that you want to learn for your specific job, or if it's a new trade that you want to learn to get a different job, definitely take the time to do that. Also work on your relationships with your family, with your siblings, with your parents, with your cousins, whoever you interact with a lot in your family. Work on those relationships, and then eventually you're gonna be able to use those skills or those things that you learn in those relationships with your family, with people outside of your family, and you're going to be able to recreate those bonds of trust, of safety, of security, and you're not going to be attracting people who shouldn't be your friend because they bring a lot of drama, because they don't give anything to the relationship, and because they're always taking from you. And so I hope that this video is helpful. I hope that this gives you guys a better understanding of me and what my life is like on a day-to-day basis when it comes to interacting with other people. And yeah, so I'm really excited that I came on camera to do this video. I definitely like this new setup. It's less of a production because I don't have my ring light and all of that. And so hopefully I'll do a few more videos like this. If not, totally fine. But anyway, I'm glad that I got to talk to you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.